Sean Hendricks here at the Autodesk booth at SIGGRAPH 2014. I'm here with Eamon Butler, Head of Animation at Cinesite. We're going to be talking about a project that they did recently. I believe you're calling it Beans.
That's its secret name, although it's stuck and it sort of gives away the ending. But
it does a little bit.
It does a little bit, but warns people that they're in for an interesting movie.
Yeah. Now, I know this made it to the Electronic Theatre here at SIGGRAPH this year. Was the open?
We're really excited to have Beans be the opening film of the Electronic Theatre. It was a surprise to us that they chose to open the movie with a fairly lowbrow gag, but we're very excited about it.
So when you started into this project, what was it that kind of initiated? Why did you decide to make a piece like this?
We wanted to create a short film or a piece that stood on its own on our terms. We'd been doing a lot of testing for films, and some you win and some you don't, but the curse of what we do is very often that we have to win the work, do the work, wait for it to come out to theaters and on DVD before you can use that work to win more work.
Right.
And it's all about your show reel in this business. So we thought, well, let's do something for ourselves that we can control how it's released in terms of, we can put it on the web, we could put it in theaters, whatever. And a short film seemed to fit the bill. One of our animators, Alvise Alvati, he's a brilliant animator, pitched me an idea, and what I really liked about it was a fake commercial. And I think the format really appealed to me because the commercial had to be 30 seconds and no more.
Right.
And one of the first things that happens when you develop a short film is everybody adds ideas and it tends to grow and grow and grow, and that risks you being able to get it done. And it makes it a lot more difficult to control. So I took the role of producer on this one, although I am an animation director. We wanted to let Alvise create the film, and I helped him shape it and provide the opportunity to do it, and then pull in resources from other shows as and when they became available. But because we wanted it to be a fake commercial, anytime it started to creep outwards, because it never gets shorter, it always gets bigger and better and bolder and whatnot. So it kept everybody honest and on track, and that was sort of the main reason we were able to get it done in such a fairly short period of time.
Because obviously you're also dealing with the fact that you're running a business, trying to make money.
Absolutely, we fit this in around all of the projects that we were working on, working at weekends and evenings. And it was very exciting. I think the other thing that was very nice and important to me was I wanted to sort of build on the creative culture of the company. So, everybody was invited to help out whenever they could. We were able to use everybody from seniors and leads to runners. And it was a great experience for everybody, and also because, and this is the other thing that we learned, never make a short film unless you have an ending. You've got to have an ending because it keeps everybody honest.
Right.
So anytime you get distractions, knowing what the ending is tends to keep everybody focused and get back on the rails. So we were able to do that and bring people in. They knew exactly what they had to do, and even though our credit list is quite long, only about 7 or 8 people really worked on about 90% of the work.
Right.
And then at the end we had other people come free off another show, and they were able to help us finish it, and it was just a really positive experience. And we're going to try and do these every year, no matter how busy we are. So that's our goal. But really, we're also developing our company towards creating content, and this is sort of the first step in doing that.
Perfect. Well, let's take a look at the piece, and kind of, you've got a breakdown reel.
We've got a little breakdown that sort of highlights some of the key aspects of that went into the making of the project.
Perfect. So let's throw it to full screen as well while we're at this.
All right.
There we are.
So initially, before we started, we just gathered as much reference photography as we could, both in terms of the design of the spacesuits, and we decided we didn't know enough about photography on the moon, types of lenses that were used, the way light reacts on the moon. And what we found was that the reference photography taught us an awful lot, but we also realized we brought a lot of baggage to it ourselves.
Right.
So on studying the actual photographs, it occurred to me that it wasn't actually the way we remember those images of the moon. So we aimed at a visual balance between accurate and stuff that's based on memory.
Right.
So sort of romantic.
Exactly.
And a lot of people are familiar with seeing images of the moon, but on crappy NTSC TV broadcast from the late 60s, early 70s. So we knew we wanted to degrade the image, so we were looking for that and ways to sort of put that in there. So things like halation on the lens, blooming, anytime the light hits something. But equally, we found that the photographs that reminded us the most of the lunar photography that we think we remembered was backlit, single source, almost a HDRI look to it, where you're getting a lot of bounce light, really deep shadows, deep rich blacks, and no stars.
Yes.
None of the photography had any stars. We thought, well, we have to put stars in, But we looked at all the pictures and they didn't have it. We're actually kind of disappointed.
Yeah, it's another one of those things that you just think should be there.
Should be there. So we learned a lot from that. We got a book called Full Moon, and it's a book of reference photographs, actual NASA astronaut photography on the moon, and it's out of print right now, and it's really hard to get, but it's a fantastic book. And we thought when we went through it that this book was all black and white images. And what we realized was, and you can see it from some of these images here, that there is actually color in them. If you look at the mask, the visor on the mask, it's got a really intense chroma to it. The flags, the reds are really strong, but everything else is completely desaturated and devoid of any color whatsoever. And we thought, okay, that's a touchstone. So we used little splashes of color, but we're very careful about it. And because our film was such a fast-paced film, we decided the strongest color was going to be on the creature, because that's where we want you to look. And then the second place we put it on is in the visor, or where the face of the astronaut would be.
Right.
It didn't really matter where the rest of it was, so we sucked the color right out of everything after that. But it was a really, really interesting experience. The other thing was that we learned was in lighting our characters, you perceive when you look at moon photography that it's dark. It's actually incredibly bright, and that really affected things like, that's why you've got such a strong depth of field. You've got almost sharpness to infinity. Is because there's so much light that lens, that shutter's squeezed way down. So we managed to pick up all of the detail on this and put it in there. We went and took an awful lot of photographs in museums of spacesuits, and we got educated as to the differences in spacesuits. So our suit is a combination of two suits: the actual first Apollo mission, and the spacesuit the guys used to fix the space shuttle. Okay. They have a name. I can't remember what it is. You have to forgive me for that. But the difference being that the space shuttle suit has a bunch of straps and gubbins on the front of it, and we needed something that could react secondarily when the astronauts ran to sort of reinforce the strange weight on the moon.
Give you the sense of why they're kind of having a hard time getting away. They're not moving very quickly, kind of.
Exactly. So here's a good example of that. So if you look at photographs of the guys who landed on it, they didn't have any of this stuff on it, because this is stuff that harnesses them to the space shuttle. Right. It carries tools and so forth. But we felt it looked really cool, and it allowed us to get that really nice secondary to accent things like his breathing at the end. So it was an artistic choice. We found during it, some of the fun we had was, in referencing what the guys wore. Every single mission, they had a unique mission patch. And if you look at these patches, you'll see it features the names of each of the astronauts. So we made our own patch, which only we know, but it's got every crew member's name on it and the director's name up on top. But they all have it, but I don't think anyone's going to see it. And just as a side note, the texture artist, once we started having fun like this, started to add things like, she brought up this issue of one of the astronauts gets torn in half. Right. Which is not a very nice thing. If you're an astronaut, that's a bad thing. And but we didn't texture the inside of the wet bit.
The wet bit. I like how you put that.
And suddenly we had a problem rendering because there was no texture on there. So she called up some stuff that she found online and showed it to us, and we were like, turn it off. It was actual innards.
Inappropriate Google search.
Yeah, that's not safe for work. But we're like, no, we can't do that. So Elvise went off and found a picture of some delicious deli meats arranged in a circle, which at a distance looked kind of like the wet bit. So we had a lot of fun with texturing.
For the 10 frames with motion blur, it's all good.
It was important to us. The animation testing was fun because, you go into this thinking it's slowed down. Lower gravity means slower, and that's actually not the case. If you watch any of the footage, we referenced lots of documentaries. They can move quite quickly. It's just their mass can't move forward at any great velocity. And that's the difference to it.
Takes
so
a long
there's
time to
power
build
and
up the
tension
momentum
and torque in the body, but what we did find was they're really limited by the suit and the build of the suit, because they've got these connecting rings about where every joint is, and that kind of really creates a narrow range of movement. So we ended up having the animators sort of bounce like a bunny, and it's accurate to the way they did it, but it was also kind of funny and helped us sell the gag. In developing the creature, we went through pretty much a standard art pass process. We used an artist who worked with us for years, J.D. Solon, who created this image that you see on the left. We described what we thought it would be, and he went for what we would consider Earth creature look, which is browns and grays. Right. And there was something about it, and we couldn't quite figure out what it was we wanted. And then one of our our VFX soup, Richard Clark, came in and said, it's on the moon, it could be anything. It's, red's a big warning sign. He found these images of crabs that live in complete darkness that are really incredibly vibrant in color. And we thought, okay, so we switched the red up, and initially it freaked us out. But then once we started adding dirt, skin detail, toning it down, making it fit in that landscape, we started to buy it a lot more. And we added things like some luminescence to the mandibles, and the glowing eyes was sort of a cheap gag, but it made you look at them, and that was the important thing. And you need to get a very quick read on the beast.
You got to draw you in right away.
We went off the page straight into 3D sketching, which I'm a big fan of sketching in any aspect of what we do as filmmakers and as visual effects artists. I think if you draw something, you can get caught up in the conceits of the limitations of drawing and fall in love with something that you're never going to be able to replicate in 3D. So we try to get it into 3D as quickly as possible. We use Mudbox, ZBrush, Sculptress, anything the artists wanted to use. In this case, this was done directly in Maya. And it was great because we wouldn't spend longer than one day designing something. Right. And then we passed designs to each other to try to build on different looks and different features. So here's a lineup of 3 different takes of the creature. On the far left, it was your classic guy in a suit kind of a look, where it feels like plates, he's sort of like a rhino, but you can kind of imagine an actor in that suit. We kind of liked that build. We weren't trying to fake it to be something else. But what we did like was the massive arms, tiny head kind of vibe. As we come across, we started playing with the mouth, and this is where you see we dropped the teeth and introduced claws, moving claws, which we'll show you in a little bit. And then we got really wild over here where we started adding spines and sort of a lobstery kind of vibe. And we like bits of everything. And towards the end of the process, we were able to amalgamate all of the things we liked into this design. And so you can see it's got massive claws. It looks like it's rigid, heavy, scary, spiny. If you got one image of it, you knew that's a bad thing. I need to run away right now.
Right.
And that was kind of, we wanted an instant gut reaction from our audience. The mouth design was really interesting. The gag that we wanted to play was we wanted to be surprised when it opened its mouth and yelled. But we're used to seeing that kind of thing in any creature film. Big roar moment, it's always cool. But we wanted to amp it up, so we decided to contrast. It'd be fun if its mouth and face looked smaller at the beginning and then suddenly opened up much wider. So to do that, we created these kind of made-up mandibles that wrapped around the outside of its mouth. And once its mouth opened, you realize, oh my God, it's absolutely huge.
So it's the old reality doesn't matter, let's just make this cool.
We just made it up. And this is our proof of concept. And here's an animation test showing how the teeth would work. And it was fun to do. And this is an early animation test as well.
Yeah, I can see animators having fun with that.
It's great fun. This is the Animatic. We started making the film with a very straightforward process, which is get it up on reels as quickly as you can without spending any money.
Yep.
So drawing it is the best way to do that. We immediately go into previs, if you will, or layout, depending on how advanced you want to get. Because doing a storyboard doesn't really tell you enough about the camera or enough about what the camera would see.
Right.
So we just wanted to build exactly what you could see and no more. So getting into previs helped us figure out what our camera would see, helped educate us as to how much detail we would see. So for example, here you can see the monsters you only really see it from the front. So that's where we put all our detail. There's detail on the back, but there's no muscles on his back, and there's nothing that's moving in any kind of cool way.
Just enough because he hunches over, so you have to see a bit.
Absolutely. So we were able to build it just to the camera. We normally, on a movie where we'd have a whole load of shots to deliver, we would develop a muscle system, fine-tune it, but that takes a period of time to get that right. Even the best muscle systems, you still have to fine-tune it. Anything that's driven dynamically is notoriously difficult to art direct. So in this case, we just use standard Maya deformers, clusters, bones, whatever we thought would work on the front of the creature and hand animated them, and it was just as quick for that one shot.
Yeah, if you never have to recreate it for any other shots, then
it didn't matter. And also we created a separate pipeline. We used a caching system where the animator would work on his machine, and he would press a button, we'd export a cache. We would pick up a new rig on that cache which just contained the muscle system. So the animator and the muscle guy were only a half a day apart at any one time. So we were able to update constantly without losing anything, and it was a very efficient pipeline. Here you see the color pass. which, we played with specularity, subsurface scattering, all pretty standard stuff. We used a combination of V-Ray and RenderMan to render it because they're known to us. We're very experienced in with those renders. Our Lunar Landscape was made up of basically one big matte painting at the back and a ZBrush modeled ground plane in the front with displacement, pretty standard texturing, which we did in Mari.
Right.
Particle simulations took the longest of any aspect of the film, mainly because we wanted it to look like it would look on the moon.
Right.
Except it's really weird on the moon. If you watch any of the lunar rover footage, you'll see dust gets kicked up, but falls really quickly. It doesn't look right. Your eye is kind of drawn.
Expecting it to hang.
Expecting it to hang, and it doesn't. And we thought, okay, we did that, and it just looked wrong. It looked weird, and we thought, right now I'm taken right out of the movie. So we changed the rules. Our astronauts are animated according to the actual gravity of the moon, but our particle simulations are based on 4 variations of gravity. So we had a dust-like effect. There wouldn't be any dust on the moon. It would react like heavy grains and fall immediately, but we felt like we needed to see it. Also, the dust and dirt were key in giving us the violence that we wanted to. So we didn't want to show anybody getting really hurt, but we wanted you to feel like, oh my God, he just got totally obliterated at that point. And the particles really helped to sell that impact. So it was important to get that right. So we had fine dust particles as a dust cloud. We had larger pieces that were kicked up but fell to the ground quickly. And then we had lighter pieces that hung in the air a little bit longer. And we had to fine tune it because the character's running through all of this, so we couldn't have it hang for too long. Mm-hmm. It would stick to him. It got really weird. So that was probably the single longest development piece, because we were kind of changing the rules as we went along.
Constant tweaking of variables to see.
Here you can see all the various passes. Also, we hand animated some larger rocks. Rather than getting into another 8 passes of rocks, we just gave animators, here you go, here's 8 rocks, duplicate them, do whatever you want, and just animate them so they kind of come near camera. And that was the sort of the final polish on it. Some of the sort of tricks that we used, because we're pulling back from a landscape, you start on quite a small piece of a landscape, and you end up quite wide on it. And we made a mistake of not having enough resolution in our displacement. So in the beginning of it, it's quite a soft displacement. So all we did, rather than go back and do it again because we lost that artist to a show, we went in and put in some actual geometry of rocks in front and around it, and your eye picks up detail, and that's all it needs to see. So again, it was all about just enough information that you're not distracted, but enough to put you right where you need to be.
Exactly.
And then we pull back to the to reveal on the rock. We only built the part of the rock that you see, and again, it's all the same techniques that we used on the background. And it was great fun to do. I think the challenges were for me as a producer on it, were managing people's time, because I'm trying to work around this.
Constantly stealing moments.
I had a lot of help from very nice producers on other shows who were very supportive. But I think what was great about it was everybody came off feeling really proud, and everybody contributed. There wasn't a day that went by when somebody had a really cool idea, and most of them made it into the movie. Molinaire helped us with a grade and a sound mix. And the sound, if you listen to it in the theater, it's
awesome.
Absolutely amazing. It's a full 5.1 mix, and it's just insane. And they had a great time doing it too. And interestingly, they changed a lot of the quality of the sounds, and the one sound they kept was the fart.
Of course.
And it's quite a low-res sound, but they were like, you got the right one, because it's real easy to get that wrong.
Yeah.
And we wanted something that had a little tension to it, but make it funny at the same time. And it took us quite a while to get that right.
How much time was spent,
a lot of
cushions
time,
and various other machinery to try and.
It was, but once we got it, it was like, that's it. And we're not out to offend anybody with it, but it's interesting where you spend your time trying to get.
I'm picturing the day of a whole bunch of people sitting around making
fart
noises.
It's very hard to be serious in meetings like that.
It's the way to end any shop.
But we had great fun, and I think on this particular show, there are shows where you have a lot of lead-in time, and then or you're trying to do something new that you've not done before, or you're looking for optimizations. In this case, we really wanted to get a movie done and not worry about the tools and the software. That was really, really important to us. So it was, we wanted all our time spent moving forward on getting the imagery right, because we knew we were going to have to change things, like the particles, and we knew we were going to learn stuff doing that. So using Maya, using established texturing tools, established particle tools, was a no-brainer. It meant that everybody could drop into the show and move forward.
And you said for like most of the time you had like one animator basically working.
90% of the time it was one animator, and at the end, about another 7 guys jumped in and said, "I can do some rock story. I can just finish that strap animation. I can, So that's what helped us get us over the line. We didn't lose any time. It was a really efficient show, and it was fun because we didn't have any technical hiccups. And I think, it was a really good example for me of, when you're using reliable tools, you can make the appropriate compromises, because all filmmaking is about compromise.
Absolutely.
And hopefully the audience never sees it, but we were able to do stuff that I hope actually added to the quality of the show.
Well, when I look at this, I really love the fact, because it almost feels like you don't see this as much anymore, of people legitimately saying, no, I'm going to cheat almost everything here for so many good reasons.
Yes.
There's a lot of people get caught up these days, and it's going to be real, I'm going to do all the dynamics
we
things
had
the right
those
way.
arguments. We definitely had
I'm
those
sure
arguments.
you did.
And for good reasons. But another good one, Zave, who's our 2D lead, he did an amazing job on the comp, and he got kind of pissed at me because we degraded in the grade.
Right.
But hopefully we're on talking terms now. But he did a fantastic job, and it was crisp and gorgeous. But we're looking at it as a film. We felt we needed to dirty it up a little bit, because that was the thing I talked about earlier.
Needed that feel.
You wanted to remember. It reminds me of moon footage, instead of being accurately depicting moon footage.
I need to remember my bad TV in the basement. Yes.
Yeah, and sometimes that hurts when you do it, but I think we made some good decisions. But yeah, it was a learning curve for all of us. It's something we're going to do, as I said, every year, if we can, no matter how busy we are. And we're also developing feature animated films now. We've got a big slate of films we're putting into Montreal, and we're hiring. If anybody's looking.
There you go. You heard it here.
We're very excited about it, and we are a Maya house. That's our base software for animation.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, Eamon, for coming out and
You're welcome.
going through all this with us. I mean, I love this piece. I do look forward to seeing whatever you guys come up with next.
Me too.
I'm not sure how you top farts as your
there's
final.
got to be. It's either go bigger, or it'll be fun. A symphony of farts, maybe.
Yeah. Sounds risky. So thank you very much again.
You're welcome. Thanks a lot.
Have a good one. Thank you, everyone. Talk to you later.
Take care.